Heaton, I'm again our lone American. I'm manning. Don't worry, boys. I'm manning the ship while you guys have fanned across the globe.
You've already misinterpreted what's going on, Justin. I am once again a rogue, unpaid ambassador for the United States. Last night, I was hanging out in the flat with most of the other flatmates are Indian, and they all wanted to talk about how dangerous guns were. And I go, well, like, we can get into the stats here, and like started like kind of walking them through. I'm like, actually, New York City is about as dangerous as Paris. New England's about as dangerous as Old England. Appalachia, like, you got to think of America as different countries. Don't think of it as one country. Like, doing I've been here 3 days, and I'm already acting on behalf of our great nation as a friend and neighbor of all other nations.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, we appreciate you personally. You're living in an apartment with multiple Indians?
Yeah, for now. So this is year 3 at the flat that I stay at kind of in the Meadows, if anybody knows where that is in Edinburgh. I hit it off with the landlady, Claire. We're now friends. We're buddies. So I was here 3 years ago, and last year was like, hey, I would, rather than doing what I did previously, which is just like jump between multiple Airbnbs, which is exhausting, I was like, why don't I just come back to the same flat? She went, yeah, let's do that. And then I just left a duffel bag, like just put like the keyboard I'm using for while I'm here, the fan behind me. I just left a duffel bag of Scottish stuff, and I'm back here for year 3. So she's got 2 flats in this building. And she, I think, makes a lot of her annual income renting it out to people that are here for the Fringe. So there's always just a assorted cast of characters that are coming in and out. Right now, we've got the Indians and a guy named Jared, who's like a Californian, Swedish, Minnesotan guy. He seems cool. But they're all going to leave before the Fringe, and then there'll be a new crop of people. And then I'll be the old guard.
So are they in your apartment, or is there like a shared common area, like a dorm? How close are you to these people?
We have bunk beds. We have 3 bunk beds, and we all sleep in the. No, there's no. I'm in my room. There are 3 or 4 other bedrooms in this flat, and then we've got 2.5 bathrooms and a kitchen, and we'll congregate in the kitchen sometimes. Sometimes you'll come home and somebody will be making dinner. So you are in
an apartment, like you can close your door, but you cannot close your apartment to other people.
Yeah, but I like it. I really, man, again, you're talking to the person of our ensemble here that will at some point hopefully live in a commune. I like that I go in and I'm like, I'm going to get some tea. Oh, there's new friends here. Terrific. And I'll just sit down and hang out with them. I like that.
Yeah.
This sounds like the house that Forrest Gump grew up in.
Did he grow up with a bunch of Indians? I haven't watched that film in a long time.
No, his mom ran a hotel, right?
Oh, that sounds terrific.
And sometime interesting people like Elvis Presley showed up. But then she had to fuck the principal.
She did.
To
help Forrest.
To help Forrest.
She had plenty of beds to do that because she was running.
Yeah, because she was running.
Well, my mom fucked the principal, so I feel like we've got some things here. I mean, I don't know that it really affected me at all. I don't know that it helped, but there's some parallels.
Does your childhood love got the AIDS?
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Because that was the other big part about Forrest Gump.
That too, yes.
Good.
My childhood love also has the AIDS. Fortunately, there's pretty good medication now, so she'll probably pull through.
Yeah, exactly. She has PrEP, you know. There's plenty of mitigating factors. Mm-hmm. That would be an interesting if you're going to remake Forrest Gump and it's like, oh, like Jenny had AIDS, but she just kept living. It's fine. There were medical advancements.
You know that
Forrest has his magic shoes and Jenny has whatever Magic Johnson's been taking for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
you know that biopic on Freddie Mercury came out a few years ago? When it came to Communist China. Yes, Bohemian Rhapsody. When it came to Communist China, they censored all the gay parts, which makes the film really funny because it's just him singing and then he's got AIDS. Like there's like, you don't know where that came from and he dies.
Well, there really wasn't a ton of that was one of the criticisms of the movie is that it wasn't as gay because it was
Jen, you hearing this Chinese bullshit from our friend Justin over here?
Justin just likes the gay parts. He wants more gay parts.
Yeah.
I mean, in a Freddie Mercury biopic.
In any biopic.
Sure. All right. Asked and answered. No, there was a famous interview with Sacha Baron Cohen, who was initially developing a Queen biopic or a Freddie Mercury biopic, and he was saying that it fell apart because he was talking to the rest of the band. And the Brian May, the guitarist, goes, yeah, the greatest thing about the movie is what happens halfway through. And he's like, oh, what? And he's like, Freddie dies. It's like, really? Halfway through the movie? Is it like the rest of it just about the rest of the band?
Because that'd be great if they were
does it
just
switch back to when things were happening? It's like, nope. The rest of the movie is about how the band became even bigger. And it's like, all right, I think I'm going to leave this project.
Great. I like that. No, I think that's great. I want to see that film.
Well, that one never got made, but the one that did get made also had Brian May's involvement, which is, and also I think Freddie Mercury's family also has a complicated relationship with him being the gay. I think Freddie Mercury had a complicated relationship with himself being as gay as he was.
That's a bummer.
Fun facts.
I picked up on that in the film. Facts. Yeah.
So Heaton, you're enjoying Edinburgh. You're back in your natural habitat.
I am. Not only that, I did it much better this year. So what I normally do is I forget to tell anybody I'm coming. And then I come here and this happened 3 or 4 times now. I'll come here for a week and I'm like, God, none of my friends are hanging out anymore. Maybe it's finally over. Maybe it's over. That was a fun part of my youth and it's done. This year, I texted everybody the day I was coming and I've been hanging out every day since I got here. It's been great.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Funny.
I had a friend from California that just happened to be here, and I noticed on her Instagram story. So we've been hanging out for the past 3 or 4 days. She left this morning. But every time I think about not being on social media, I remember how many times this has happened around the world where we're like, hey, we're in the same city. You want to hang out right now? And it's like, yes, 100% of the time. So we actually watched the World Cup game in Spain with friends from California and her kids who I hung out with her for when I moved to Hermosa. That's when we met. And so we were there for 5 months. I never met her family. And yet here on the other side of the world, I've been hanging out with them for days. And we had this amazing experience that none of us will ever forget being in Spain for the World Cup. So yeah, it's been a fun, exhausting week after the game. This place went bonkers, as you might imagine. So I went to sleep at 3:30 in the morning and I could still hear people singing on the beach. And by the way, I'm blocks away from the beach, but you could still hear it. Fireworks and car horns and people that just weren't scootering during the game, but certainly were after with Spanish flags. And they were shutting down traffic to the point that children were dancing on their own cars because they were clearly not going anywhere. So it was absolutely wild here. It was an experience. I was happy to be here, but it's been 2 days and I still haven't quite recovered.
Did Spain win?
Adjusted.
Or did they
They
fight?
did.
Yeah, they beat Argentina. And it was interesting to be here because there were no watch parties. So anything you've seen online has either been, from what I recognize, either Madrid or Valencia. They were the ones that put up the big screens and had everyone in the plazas. But here in Barcelona, there's a significant number of people that don't consider themselves Spanish. They want to be Catalan. They actually want to break away from Spain. So you had that contingent that was like, oh no, I'm not Spanish. I'm rooting for pretty much anyone else. And then
Were they rooting for Argentina? Great.
A lot of people were for 2 reasons. So there was some of that, but then also the star on Argentina, Messi, he used to play for Barcelona. And so he just has a lot of fans and this is his last World Cup. And so the city was a little divided. So all of the bars had TVs outside, so it was easy to find stuff, but there was no plaza where everyone went to watch it like it was in some of the other cities. So I thought the party might be subdued. And I was so wrong.
Jen, that's kind of like here in Scotland, there's 2 football teams. There's England and not England. And whoever not England, the Scots like, North Korea, go North Korea, beat England.
Yeah, they had a man on the street interview of people in Ireland asking if they were rooting for England. And they were like, why would we do that? And they're like, because they're your neighbors. And they're like, no, we
hate
for
them.
Whoever is not whoever's playing England, that's who we root for.
Yeah, that's always a rookie mistake. Whenever you are coming into a new thing and you're like, well, you guys are next to each other. You should like each other, right?
You guys are both brown. No, so Pakistan and India, I bet you're pretty good friends, right? Like you've got all the shared history and you're
But as Americans, I get it because I do root for Canada and Mexico. I love the neighbors. In fact, I can't think of a single country that I would just be like naturally, fuck them. but other countries
I
have
can't
that.
root for Mexico. Are you kidding me?
Why
in
not?
the World
Mexicans
Cup?
are amazing. They're so fun. Once we were out, like, go Mexico. They're the
Well,
neighbors.
we were both out at the same time, so there wasn't any overhang.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's more of an American thing because, like in Oklahoma, we root against Texas when we're playing it.
Yeah.
But then once we get knocked out, we're rooting for Texas because they're our neighbors. Yeah. We prefer Texas over like Louisiana or something.
Totally.
No, that's not true.
Is it not?
No.
I think it is.
No.
I
don't think
baseball,
anybody who is like really invested in the Red River rivalry would say like, oh no, I hope that Oklahoma wins the championship if we're out, if they're on the Texas side or vice versa. Like you hate that team.
I think
this
it
might
depends
be one
on
of those instances
because there's plenty of Cowboys fans roaming around in Oklahoma because they're pretty close.
See, they're like same with Texas Rangers. Like I think we now have more baseball activity, but back in the day, Texas Rangers were the closest one.
Pro. I mean, Oklahoma doesn't have a pro football team, so.
But exactly, it depends on the sport. But like Oklahoma, they don't reflexively be like fuck Texas in every single instance the way that it seems like the Scottish are to the English.
Yeah. Well, also the Scottish are fairly miserable people, but like, I mean, by legend, like that's like their thing. They're like, we're cheap and we're miserable.
They're a bit dour.
Like, that's their brand. It's what's fun about them.
What does it say about Boston that the Scottish descend on Boston and they were the most lovely people on earth? Like, does that mean the massholes
they're fun. The Scots are fun, but there are these weird Scottish emotions that they experience that we don't, that are blends of other emotions. It'll be like exasperation and joy. Like that's not a combo you and I are given to a lot, but like the Scots will have that. They'll be like a side eye. I'm angry and tired, but I'm happy at the same time. So they'll like that kind of dourness kind of gets factored into some of the other things.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it was good. It was good that the Scots and the massholes got together. That's a good pairing, I think.
There's the old pub that I would go to, one of the pubs I'd go to for karaoke here, the Globe, shut down. And the Globe was one of those really fine dive bar, like your options are tenants and tenants with light bulbs in it kind of places.
Yeah.
And they would do karaoke. That shut down and is reopened as Boston Bar, which is apparently a theme. And Boston Bar is an American Irish pub. My understanding of it is they're trying to replicate Cheers. The Scots believe that it is an American interpretation of an Irish bar, which I think is too many levels of inception. And they're very hostile to this. And I don't really blame them either. One, I think if you're going to have like an Irish bar, they're like Frisbee distance from here. You could just go talk to them about what it's like to have an Irish bar. Like going to Boston to do it's kind of weird. And they're none too pleased about this. There's a lot of theories that the new Boston Scottish alliance is going to make that bar really poppin'. And I was like, I don't think you understand how small our attention spans is there, Scots. We're not going to remember this in 2 years. Like if that's what you're banking on, wrong-o.
Oh, see, this is where Oklahoma doesn't understand Boston. Like anyone from Boston that travels there,
the Boston bar,
they will go.
Really?
Oh, yeah, all over the country. If any bar declares itself the Boston bar for every Patriots game, Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins, all of them, they're all going to that bar. Like
if
Boston
it's showing those things,
they put in a lot of screens, so I guess that they might be able to rely on that demo.
If it's going to cater to American sports, then yeah, they might do it. I will say that having in my studied travels, the idea of the American bar really is kind of this hybrid between a English or Irish pub, which tends to be a little bit more upscale and exclusive to like drinking and
with burgers,
with a German beer hall. Like, so they tend to be larger like a German beer hall. They tend to have more communal seating than a pub would have. But it retains the idea where a German beer hall can often be a little bit more family friendly and a little bit more food centric. And, you know, they have a little bit more of a wide diversity of food than, let's say, an English pub is. We're kind of somewhere in the middle. Like what you would understand is like a Buffalo Wild Wings is really the fusion of those two ideas.
Huh. I can kind of see that. I mean, I feel like it kind of loses some of the flavor of both of the process, but I see how we get there.
Yeah. But that's the thing is I don't know if you can then sell that back to the places that inspired the idea. Like,
my buddy Hepburn opened up a chicken wings joint on the high street. And I thought it was a horrible idea. He talked to me back before he did it. And I was like, I don't think anybody's going to, it's done great. Like it's it's the only place to my knowledge in Edinburgh that sells chicken wings. And they modeled it, at least the food, after what you'd get on like game day in America. And it worked out.
There's a guy around the corner from here. His store is really just him and his grill. Like there's no seats, there's no tables in there. And he's serving burgers and fried chicken. And that's it. I think he might have fries on the side of it. And there was a line around the block. Like people like that stuff.
Yeah. Turns out popular for a reason.
Yeah. And it smelled so good. We're known for our burgers, at least out here. Like everything that like looks American, there's always a picture of a burger.
That's of a burger there.
Yeah.
Maybe a gun. You can get a gun with your burger. Guns, burgers. That's what
I almost I didn't want to freak out my Scottish friends, but we were hanging out that first night. I'm just getting random texts from Josh Jennings of guns he's bought. He's just like, check this one out. Like it's a sock derringer or whatever he's sitting in. I'm like, cool. And I'm like, I'm not going to show this to my Scottish friends for another few days.
Oh, you pussy. You should have. You should have been like, this is what life is like in America. Just texting about our guns.
Yeah. Jennings, when you hear this, start sending me more gun pics and I'll do that.
Yeah, no, send me pictures. I wouldn't be ashamed of you, Jennings. Just go ahead and send me those pics. And I'll forward them to Jen. And Jen will be more horrified than Heaton, and then we will complete our circle.
You're all deranged.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young. From Edinburgh, Scotland,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And from Barcelona, España,
I'm Jen Briney.
We're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to go back to the Graham family. We talked about Lindsey Graham last week, but his sister, Darlene, now very much in the news because she has decided that she is going to run for the full 6-year term that she was named to. It's got a lot of people a little up in arms, and part of it is because of the gigantic lack of opportunities for people to run for Senate in that state. The number will stagger you. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about soccer. The World Cup is over. Jen's adopted Spain is the champion for the next 4 years. But the question that rattles around American culture whenever the World Cup happens, especially one that happens here in the U.S., is soccer now an actual sport? We discuss all that, plus your emails. Let's go ahead and start with Darlene. Darlene Graham Nordone announced on Monday that she will seek a full 6-year term in the South Carolina Senate seat held for more than 2 decades by her late brother, Lindsey Graham. Governor Henry McMaster appointed her to finish the current term, which expires in January, and she was sworn in immediately on July 14th so she could be a live vote. President Trump endorsed her before she entered the race, reshaping a rushed Republican primary that includes Representatives Ralph Norman and Russell Fry. Nancy Mace opted out. Graham has never held elected office, but spent 30 years working with South Carolinians with disabilities. Filing will run until July 28th, and the primary is August 11th. The winner will face Democrat Annie Andrews in November. Jen, let's start with you. We'll talk about Darlene and then some of the situation around it. Is Darlene Graham a legitimate candidate for Senate?
100% yes, of course she is. The qualifications for running for the Senate are really simple. Are you a U.S. citizen? Yes. Are you 35 years old or older? Yes. And are you a South Carolina resident? Yes. She meets all three. She can absolutely run for that seat. Anyone who is screaming otherwise is stupid. I don't know. It's like so obvious that she's allowed to run that I can't believe that this is something we're arguing about. I think the issue is more political because it certainly isn't actual qualifications. I mean, even if you take the Lindsey Graham-ness of it out and just look at her, she has worked in government for decades. She's been, she was almost 20 years working at the South Carolina Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. That's a government agency, and it helps people with disabilities. And for 6 years, she's been the head of South Carolina's Commission for the Blind. She's advocated for disability rights legislation and actually helped to repeal a law in South Carolina that allowed people with disabilities to be paid less than minimum wage. So this isn't a woman she's not an attention seeker like her brother was, but to say that she's not experienced, I mean, she's been working for her community for 20, 30 years. And there's people like that run for office all the time. So regardless of her brother, she's not unqualified to work in government because she's been in government for a really long time. I think there's an ick factor that people might have just because it kind of feels like a dynasty situation. And we've seen this a lot, especially lately when Raul Grijalva died. And so his daughter, Adelita Grijalva, took his seat. And I always think of this one because I think her name's ridiculous. Debbie Dingle. She took her husband's seat when John Dingle died. And so there is this tradition that we seem to be developing, which is kind of gross, of this person dies in office, and so someone in their family naturally gets the seat. That's where I feel like that's bullshit. But with this, she's getting appointed to the rest of the term. I think there's worse people who could have been appointed. I mean, this is someone who's at least shown that she's a human being to people with disabilities. So she's being appointed for that. And then she has to run just like anybody else. Now, the Supreme Court did help her money-wise because the money that her brother had amassed for his campaign, up until a few weeks ago at the Supreme Court, there was a $2,000 limit on how much could be transferred to her. That is different now. Now they can kind of funnel it through the National Republican Senatorial Committee and coordinate as much as they want with her campaign. So that would give her an advantage if she is the chosen candidate of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. If they choose someone else, if they like Ralph Norman more than her, then they can give the money to him. So it's, the unfairness is in our system. The unfairness is going to be whoever gets the wish of the party is going to get the money. That's what sucks about this. But Darlene Graham, she has every right to run in this election, and anyone questioning that is confusing me because I don't know what they're squawking about.
Heaton, I'm against it. No, for the record, I agree she's absolutely constitutionally qualified to run, and I also completely agree that they could absolutely pick worse people and probably will. They'll probably end up picking some idiot that I really don't like. So it's not that I don't like her as a person. I definitely agree that she's constitutionally qualified. There's absolutely no debate on that whatsoever. I experienced the ick factor a little bit stronger, I think. I don't think kinship should be a qualification, and that appears to be the top qualification that she has for getting this appointment. It is wonderful that she's done all of these other things. They're great. She deserves aplomb for them. That's not why she's got this. It's not that they were going to pick the lady that runs the blind administration for the last 6 years in South Carolina to be the senator if she wasn't Lindsey Graham's sister. It's because she's Lindsey Graham's sister. I don't like the dynastic seat warming that goes on in these kind of things. It strikes me as anti-Republican in the little R sense of the word. I don't like it. I think that once you become president, your kids should all get feudal titles and never be allowed to run for office. You get to be a duke and you can never hold an office. That's it. You're out. No more Bushes. No more Bushes. No more Clintons. You get one person that gets to be the head of the office. The other thing too is I think that there's a plausible idea to put forth that she is operating as the closest caretaker there can be to the person that the people of South Carolina already elected. They elected Lindsey Graham. She is going to be the closest proxy. I think that that's a fair position to say, and I can understand then why we're going to rely on the familial relationships. And she will almost certainly keep the staffing infrastructure in place as it was. And then they can make a decision as a state on who they want the next senator to be. I think that that's a plausible position to have. But even then, I think that, I don't like governors manufacturing incumbents, which is what this will become. I like the idea of a governor picking a caretaker. I would be happy to codify this in law, probably at the state level, maybe at the national level, where if you are appointed senator, you don't get to run again. You're just there as a caretaker on behalf of that state until an actual election gets you. You don't get to go for it. I would be fine with that. I also think on top of that too, if you're looking for continuity of Lindsey Graham, tap whoever his chief of staff was. That's going to signal that they're like probably not a politician. I'd be surprised if Lindsey Graham's chief of staff is somebody that has their eye on office at this point, because they've probably been there 30, 40 years. And that person would know Lindsey Graham better than anybody and would be more accurately reflecting what the people of South Carolina voted. And you wouldn't have to have any of that kind of icky nepotism that's a part of this. So she might be a nice lady. I have great faith in South Carolina to pick somebody dumber and worse in the actual general election. But overall, I don't like the nepotistic and dynastic elements of this kind of thing.
I like that phrase, manufacturing incumbency. That is what this is. That's a great way to put it.
Well, what's fascinating about it is that she was selected as the person to take on the rest of the term, in large part, at least this was rumored, because she wasn't going to run. And so you give her that, you have a little bit of a open primary, and there were some rumblings that the governor, Henry McMaster, was going to step down and take it, but you need a little maneuvering to be able to do that. And then all of a sudden, when she takes it, she's like, maybe me forever. Maybe I look around at everybody else and I'm like, none better than me. And she has two big backings. One of them is his staff, which I think is probably largely behind this, because if we're going to think selfishly, and I'm not putting any kind of selfish motives, I'm sure everybody involved in this process is grieving, considering how much Lindsey Graham was a part of their lives. But if you believe you have important work still to do in the Senate, as I'm sure his staff does, and you say, well, wait a minute, it could be just over for us. Everything we built, every relationship we built with every other office, foreign governments that we are talking to try and make sure that we get these things that we believe are important for the nation to get done, that just all goes away. And then you have his sister, who they all have a relationship with. Darlene Graham Nordone has helped run his campaign at times. She's been a fixture inside of his political machine for as long as it's existed. They're like, I don't know, we could just keep this thing going with nothing changing at all. And then Donald Trump's like, I love people. Yeah, sure, you're in. That seems like the recipe here. That being said, let me give you guys a list. Part of the reason why people in the South Carolina Republican Party are pretty mad about this, and there's some stories about them being way more pissed than you would imagine at a legendary senator's sister trying to run for the seat. The reason why is I'm going to give you guys the list. Here are all of the open primaries for Senate in South Carolina in 75 years. In 75 years' time. This is the entire list. 1956, Strom Thurmond resigned and then won back his seat. 1966, Senator Olin D. Johnson died in office. Fritz Hollings wins that open primary. 2002, so skipping from 1966 to 2002, Strom Thurmond retires. Lindsey Graham wins his seat. 2004, Fritz Hollings dies. Jim DeMint wins the open Republican primary. He retired. 2014, Jim DeMint retires. That's the list until Lindsey Graham dies. 5 open Senate primaries in 75 years. That means that there have been ambitious South Carolina Republicans and Democrats, back when Democrats, really ran the state, that have just never gotten their opportunity to win statewide and go to D.C. So if there was anything that was going to come from this, is you imagine that there's a bunch of very ambitious politicians that are like, maybe me. Nope. We're just going to go ahead and slide old Darlene right into that slot.
Well, now you're making me like her. That this is a pretty compelling choice of what's going to piss off the maximum amount of ambitious politicians. Put the dead guy's sister there for the rest of her life. I kind of like this now.
Well, and she did do something to get Trump's endorsement. It wasn't just how about her? The very first move she made in the Senate was co-sponsoring the Save America Act. So she made it crystal clear she's going to help with the voter suppression if she can. That said, she did say, I'm not Lindsay. I have my own way of doing things. But so far, her way looks a lot like her fucking brother's.
Well, her brother wasn't on board with the Save America Act in the same way. So it seems like she is more on board with that particular legislation.
That was the big problem with Lindsey Graham. He wasn't sufficiently in favor of Donald Trump and Donald Trump's agenda.
Well, if we're just trying to, I know. Okay,
yeah, I don't know what you mean.
Can we honk the Trump bad horn so we can actually talk about the vote?
No, but with Lindsey Graham, why would you say that? Because the only person that I know of on the Republican side in the Senate that's been speaking out against the Save America Act, forcefully, has been Lisa Murkowski. So if Lindsey Graham was against it, this is news to me.
No, it's in the Senate where everybody's clubby, right? Not only are you trying to the realities of trying to pass the Save America Act in whatever form it's going to come in, because it's morphed 50 times and it'll probably morph another 50 times, and also not happen, is that you either had to support the talking filibuster, some kind of filibuster reform, which Lindsey Graham, being an institutionalist, was never going to support, or you would have to try and get Democrats on board. Now, that's a total non-starter. No Democrat is going to support the Save America Act. So the question then becomes, are you going to try to convince John Thune or get enough institutionalists together so you can do some kind of talking filibuster thing, or eliminate the filibuster to pass this issue? And this has been an ongoing thing with both majorities in either direction of whether or not you're going to eliminate the filibuster to get something done that you believe needs to get done. It seems like Darlene would be more on the side, because she's not an institutionalist. She literally got there last week, that she would be on more of the side of the Mike Lee argument for it than the John Thune argument for it. That's what I say when I'm talking about it. Number one, nobody can even agree on what would be in the fucking legislation. They're going to pass this thing in Reconciliation 3.0, allegedly, if they can get their shit together in the House, which is a gigantic if, that will put earmarks for spending so they can get it past the parliamentarian. But that doesn't do anything for the actual legislation that wants to happen. And that has expanded and contracted from as small as voter ID to as big as banning trans athletes in sports and no mail-in voting and all that. So with the understanding that the Save America Act has been particularly amorphous, the argument in the Senate has always been procedural, specifically relative to the filibuster. And on that, I do think that Lindsay and Darlene would have different perspectives.
Well, when I look at that action, making it the first and so far only thing she's done in the Senate, it tells me that, like her brother, she's perfectly willing to lean over and kiss Donald Trump's big orange ass. That's kind of what I meant by that.
Sure. Yeah.
So
if she's going to be a reliable, most popular person in their party.
Okay.
Is that, if you look at his numbers, he's got historic in-party popularity. Reagan didn't touch him. Reagan had 80% popularity. Trump still has low 90s in terms of inter-Republican popularity. It's
I spend zero time looking at polls of what MAGA feel. The only thing I know is that
I'm telling you,
which is I don't care, because as a senator, her job is not to do what Donald Trump wants her to do. She's supposed to read the legislation, understand the legislation, and on its merits, if you read the Save America Act, it is crystal clear that it's a voter suppression bill. And
how does it suppress votes?
Oh, for Christ's sake, just how does it suppress votes? Okay.
If we're just going to say it over and over again.
Well, I did a whole episode about it, and I thought we talked about it on this show. But basically, By requiring people to prove their citizenship, you're putting up barriers to registration. And it's not just that you need to turn in the paperwork, you have to do it in person. So all of these different ways, like if you need to change your address, you need to redo your voter registration, you have to prove your citizenship and you have to walk your ass in there to do it in person. This is one of the reasons that Lisa Murkowski is like, you can't do this in Alaska because there's so many people that cannot get to an election office to re-register. There's other reasons, but that's a really big one. It's the proof of citizenship. So it's like, it's being branded as a voter ID law. And like, yeah, that's in there, but it's the proof of citizenship and the number of documents that you'd have to get. Like for me to prove my citizenship with my new name, I would have to prove that I married Joe and that I was born in the United States. If you don't have a birth certificate, if you were born in a territory, like there's a lot of different things. And then it's completely subjective up to the states if your paperwork isn't perfect. Like the state can just, whoever that person is, decide whether or not you get to vote. So there's a lot of different ways that people could just be told no if that is a state that is interested in suppressing certain kinds of voters and not others. And so it's ripe for all kinds of shenanigans. And all of these changes, all of them would be valid for this upcoming election. We're in the middle of the election. So how the fuck are all of us supposed to re-register with our proof of citizenship? There's no money given to the states to actually create these new positions. Like this is a recipe for chaos because this isn't something that they're trying to do for 28. They're trying to do it for 26. And the fact that they're not changing that date is just proof perfect of that. So there's all kinds of different problems. If you want to know every single one of them, I did do an episode comparing the SAVE and the Save America Act, but it is clearly voter suppression, which is why I
Wouldn't
keep
that be suppressing Republican votes if you were
it's
attacking?
Fucking dumb.
Okay, so
it's
then it
dumb.
wouldn't
So
be a politically motivated voter suppression act. It would be by way of just incompetence.
It's causing chaos. I think the goal of it has to be the chaos. So Lisa Murkowski, who does read legislation and will stand up against things that hurt her voters, she has been giving multiple speeches in the Senate, naming all these different ways that it won't just hurt Democrats, but it will also hurt Republicans. But what is happening is people like Darlene are putting their name on it because Trump wants it. They're not doing their jobs. They're not reading it, and they're not thinking their constituents. So yes, will it hurt Republicans?
They're not reading it?
Because if you read it, you would see that it hurts your constituents too. If you were doing your job as a legislator and not as an ass kisser to Donald Trump and just doing what he tells you to do, you would be against this bill. I'm really disappointed in Mike Lee because he used to care about things like this. But they're so going in lockstep right now in the Republican Party in this Congress that they are doing things that hurt their own constituents. And this is a great example of that. So yes, it would hurt Republicans.
Yeah. I think when we say things like voter suppression, and I don't think that your points are ill-founded, nor are they contrary to the facts as I understand them. But when we say things like voter suppression, people immediately believe that this is like, oh, you're trying to suppress my opponent's votes. And the argument here is that usually the demographic that would be most affected by women changing their name for marriage, while certainly bipartisan, is something that very much would hurt Republican votes.
Only if you think in blue and red. When I hear voter suppression, I hear you want fewer people to vote. And that's what this would do. It would cause fewer people to be able to vote.
Sure. So allow me to translate to people that think of everything on two sides. I know that you are above it all. Heaton?
Don't be a dick.
Are we still talking about SAVE Act? We going back to
whatever you
Mitch
want.
McConnell? Are we going back to Darlene? On the SAVE Act, I'll say, we did talk about this a few months ago. I do not have it at my fingertips. I don't have the data on it. I don't have particularly strong feelings either way. I think the strongest argument against it is that it's a shit show. That's the one that I'm most moved by, is that it's an unfunded mandate from the federal government on state governments. That strikes me as something that's going to cause a lot of problems. I'm less swayed by the voter suppression element to it. As I recall, and this is now murky in the back of my mind, but as I recall, one of the kind of ways that you could get there faster if you wanted to get the registration would be using a passport. And so I don't think that the Republicans are scheming really hard if they're going to make it harder for married women to get voting ID, but also make it easier for people with passports. That's not in their interest. So I don't think that it's like a Machiavellian type thing. I think more likely it's just that there's two different dueling impulses when it comes to election security, almost like how we have in court. Democrats would rather make sure everybody is able to vote including if it results in irregularities and maybe even occasional rare fraud, it's more important that everybody be able to exercise their democratic imperative and not be stopped by undue burdens than it is to worry about the purity of the election. Republicans are on the flip side, where they would rather erect barriers and ensure that the election is 100% pure, and maybe some people don't have enough time to go vote as a result of that. I can appreciate both impulses, and it would really just go down to the bill specifically in terms of whether I thought it was good or bad. I also thought back when we talked about that Justin made a fair point, which was we do have a tremendous amount of declining trust in American elections. I do want some mechanism to shore that up. And if that means that we have some kind of voter ID law in order to do it, I'm okay with that. Maybe this particular one is a bad one. Jen, you brought up lots of really good reasons that it wouldn't work or it would be a shit show. But in general, though, if we were to do some kind of minimally burdensome voter ID law that just made everybody think that election integrity is much stronger, I would favor that, just for the psychic utility that we would gain as a republic.
I would love to do a conference where people shared their issues with election integrity, because it is a bipartisan problem and has been for a very long time. And we have a lot of declining trust. I think that you could create a both sides of the ledger. Everybody gets a thing that they feel bad about. And you could do something that would be good for the country. Now that won't happen because we live in hell, but it would be nice. It'd be fun if we did it. Look, there's a huge section of the Democratic Party that believes that Elon Musk stole the election and that Trump is an illegitimate president. That is a thing.
Here's my pie in the sky. Here's my pie in the sky bipartisan compromise that will never, ever, ever, ever happen in a million years. But this is what I would love. We're going to have some kind of national voter ID verification process, and we're going to outlaw gerrymandering. I would be thrilled with this outcome. I would be thrilled with this outcome if this is the Republicans go, we got to have voter ID. The Democrats go, okay, but we got to have independent, nonpartisan commissions. Deal. Good job, everybody.
Yeah, the
American
problem is that
saved.
Nobody actually doesn't want gerrymandering. They don't want their team to not be able to have the levers that help them in their gerrymandering.
Yeah, it's incumbency protection on both sides for those who do it.
I actually agree with you. I did a bonus episode on gerrymandering on the political orphanage this last week. And what I was attempting to do was figure out who's the root shitbag. So because whenever anybody gerrymanders, everybody goes, we're only doing this because the other shitbags started it. We're compensating for the shitbags. So I went, okay, well, who's actually starting it? I went all the way back to 1788. I just went all the way through this. And what I came to is Patrick Henry should be blown up. It all starts with that fucker. Patrick Henry tries to gerrymander James Madison before the word exists. And my overall takeaway on it was that gerrymandering is opportunistic. It's if a legislature can get away with it, they will. They stop when they don't have sufficient power to enact it, or they're afraid that they're going to get knocked out and their opponents will do it, so they get a detente, or the voters just fucking hate it and stop them. But when they have the ability to do it, they do.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. That feels like it's a thing that nobody wants to take credit for, but they all do it. The voter stuff, look, I think that there's real issues. If people have issues with electronic voting, and they've had issues with electronic voting for as long as we have put electronic voting machines into this process. Go back to 2004 if you want to hear Democrats be mad about electronic voting machines. The Diebold machines in Ohio. Kerry's the president. You can go back and look at that. That's all real. And guess what? There's reason. I'm going to be in DEF CON in a couple weeks. DEF CON has a place every single year where they bring these machines in and they ask people to hack them. And guess what? They can demonstrate ways that these machines can be hacked.
God damn it, Darren. Quit fucking up our democracy, you piece of shit.
I mean, some of his stuff has been used. In fact, there was a when Mike Lindell made this his entire personality after 2020, there were a few shots of Hack 5 items that were used to hack the machines. That being said, it's not a crazy thing. It's just a keylogger that you put into a thing and it is able to do it. Wide scale voter fraud still remains elusive because you are able to we have a decentralized system when it comes to voting. It's very hard to put the votes where you need them, when you need them, at the time you need them to change something like a presidential election, for example. In smaller elections, possible. The rules we have around patching electronic voting machines to get over hacks that are known are archaic, and they take forever. There are Georgia voting machines that had demonstrated hacks on them from nonpartisan independent researchers at Voting Village in DEF CON that the Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, refused to patch. Now, he said it was because it would take too long and they wouldn't be able to get the right approvals for it because there's, red tape around it. That's the kind of shit that needs to be reformed. Like, you do want to make sure that everybody knows what these hacks are, how you're dealing with them, and you want to put them out to a community that can test them themselves so you have the most faith in the system. And so I do think that there's a lot that you could do on an X's and O's level, but unfortunately, whenever you even get close to talking about this, the same way that when you get close to talking about the stuff that happened in California where the votes take forever to count, nobody can think of it like a system. They think of it like an election where you have emotions that are involved because there is the future of whatever body being decided. And depending on which side of that you're on, you have an outsized desire to protect it or destroy it. And I think that that's awful. And it is when that's the only way that we look at it very narrowly, then you allow for these systemic problems to continue to grow. And I think that ultimately is what leads to the lack of faith in the system. And, I think the bill's coming due on a lot of it.
I agree with every word of that. It's just when I look at the policies that all of us are talking about that we would like, with the exception of voter ID, which is extremely popular in the United States. Like if you just say to prove who you are.
Should only citizens vote is like an 80-20 issue.
It is, but it's like the proof that they're requiring is a little bonkers. But like to walk up there and have to prove that I am Jennifer Briney with a driver's license or passport or, whatever, most people support that. That I don't remember being in the Democrats' bill, but independent commissions for gerrymandering, that was in there, requiring paper receipts for every vote that goes into a voting machine so that you can do a hand count. That was in there. The Save America Act doesn't have those things. It is a different goal. I believe the goal is chaos. And so I think it matters. Like, Justin, you are 100% right that we need to shore up our elections, if only to make people feel better about them, although I do think there are legit concerns. But it matters what is trying to be done. And these things that we're saying that we really support and are really necessary, they're not in that bill. And I think we need to be clear about that.
Why do you think it's chaos is the goal? I ask this because I'm willing to buy good intentions on the Republicans in this one. I'm not saying it's a good idea. There are lots of well-intentioned bills that are stupid that have negative outcome, and I might very well vote against it if I am appointed senator of South Carolina when Darlene dies. Maybe I'll vote against it. I don't know. But the Republicans have been talking about this for a really long time. And as you both note, this is something that's really high in the polls. I'm freaked out when I go to vote and I just tell them my name and that's it. I find that very odd. I don't think that the 2020 election was stolen, but I feel weird as somebody that has pretty high faith in our electoral system. So I get that the Republicans are finally going, we've been talking about this for 20, 30 years. It's not excessive to ask people to get a driver's license to drive a car. Democracy is important too. We're going to have something comparable for that just in terms of proving identity. I get it. So it might be dumb, but I understand the base intention. Why do you think chaos is the goal? What would the benefit to them be from chaos?
So I think there are two different things going on here. If we're talking about voter ID when you go to vote, so it's like, here's my driver's license, I'm Jennifer Briney. That's only one small thing. That's what they're saying the Save America Act is, and it is in fact in there, but it is so much more than that. The problem comes from proving citizenship in order to register. So we're talking like a whole step before that. And none of us have had to prove our citizenship to register, which means if this goes into effect before November, We all have to prove our citizenship, and there is no process for that already in place in the states. They provide no specialists to help them do that. They provide no funding to help the current election officials do that. So
I understand it's a shit show, but why would it be beneficial to them for that to be a shit show?
Oh, because you might remember that in 2020, we had a president named Donald Trump, and he tried to remain president. And at the heart of his plot to remain president, he was really just trying to sow chaos. So when you look at what they did, which was fake 7 election certifications in the swing states, what they were trying to do was to get those accepted as real in order for that election to essentially be so chaotic that the House of Representatives would determine the presidency. At the time, the Republicans, because it's done a little different there. It's not one person, one vote. It's one state, one vote.
Right.
And the Republicans controlled 26 out of the 50 voting states. So that was the path that Trump was trying to go down. But the key to that wasn't necessarily getting those 7 states to be officially counted as his. It was the chaos that would allow a different procedure to determine the election. I think he's trying to set up something else that for 2026 that looks very similar in the plot. Because if you look at his speech from last week, he's trying to already tell us that there
Is
are
the Chinese thing?
Yeah, that there's like the Chinese in our election and the 2020 was stolen and they're about to he is setting the stage to say that 2026 was stolen. And so if you have all of these new election procedures that are causing this level of chaos, that's how you can get Mike Johnson to not seat certain people by looking at the close ones and being like, this one was fake, and just causing so much chaos that the Republicans can do God only fucking knows what in order to keep power. I think it's a desperate play by a party that's already chosen to try and cheat. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that tried to help this pot in 2020, they're still there. Scott Perry is still there. Ron Johnson's still there. Justin, I can see you laughing at me right now, but you're asking what my theory is. This is it. I think the chaos is the goal. And
I think that's ridiculous.
Okay, why do you think that's ridiculous with all of this evidence that we have right before us and the proof from what they already tried in 2020? Why is it ridiculous?
Okay, it's not evidence. It is your
circumstantial
building of a case. And for the love of God, I don't know what gypsy I ran over that forces me to just continue to talk about 2020 over and over and over again. But I am not here to say that there is not a repeated fixation from Donald Trump on 2020. Nor am I here to defend the alternate slate of electors. I think that was a awful, shameful loser move that was bad for every reason that you have in your head. I don't think that the liberal fantasy of Donald Trump as grand election corrupter and dictator in chief rings true in my head. Not to say that it might not happen, but whenever we get into this, he's going to declare the elections null and void or not seat people because of X, Y, and Z. I don't see the evidence from what I have understood in following this process that I think that is a likely outcome. Does it mean that it won't happen? No, I've been wrong on plenty of things before. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I find it to be ridiculous. I also think that if you look at the mechanics of this particular version of the Trump Republican Party, the idea that anything is planned more than 5 seconds out is a little rich for my blood. But I understand that it's very popular and a lot of people really believe it. So I don't find it particularly compelling, but that's just me. Just one man's opinion.
I'm not saying it to be popular. God knows that if I want to be popular,
it is popular,
half the stuff that I would say
popular.
Wouldn't come out of my mouth. But that isn't why I'm saying this. I'm saying that because when I look at the Save America Act and I see, especially when you see Lisa Murkowski laying it out for a fucking hour and a half on the Senate floor, why it is a dumb plan. They know it's a dumb plan. When you look at all these different factors and the fact that Donald Trump in particular is obsessed with this bill, it has less to do really with the Republicans in Congress because it's actually the Republicans in Congress that are preventing this from going forward, because it's the Republicans in the Senate that won't kill the filibuster to make it happen. They're not voting for this. So it's like the wise ones in the Senate are stopping this. But Donald Trump is obsessed with it. And when I look at his previous behavior, the last time he was losing an election, his inability to say that he lost anything, that he's the one that I'm worried about. And so when I look at Save America Act and the people that are willing to go along with it, it can't be for the virtues of the bill, not this late. When this was an idea that was put forth a year and a half ago, we could have this conversation. It is July and the vote is in November. If they don't change that date to be effective for a further election than 2026, then that's how you know the goal has to be chaos, because that's the only result that's possible here.
I just don't know. If it were to happen, then it would have to happen with John Thune agreeing to it. I don't know that there's any connection between a Donald Trump plot and John Thune, at least from what I have seen. Now, I agree with you. For the record, let me just say this. I think we're way too close to the election to talk about any kind of law that would affect this one. I think that the window for that is closed. I have said, if we're going to just get to my opinion, and not my opinion of other people's opinions, I think that they have fumbled historically with this legislation. What they should have done is pared it down just to citizenship equals vote, and then tacked money onto it, and then put that in the Senate and beat the Democrats with it, because that's an 80-20 issue. If they would have done that, and they would have stapled money to make it happen, then they could do it. They could do it now if they move the date. But the biggest voter suppression that I see in that bill, it has nothing to do with the proof of citizenship stuff. That's what Democrats tend to focus on. The biggest voter suppression I see is in the punitive mail-in ballot stuff, because in various different versions of it, they just want to out and out ban mail-in balloting, except for very narrow exceptions that you would have to apply for each and every time. And while I have huge problems with universal mail-in balloting in states that are not built for it and don't have that have way too many people, I think that you can spread too many loose ballots, and then we're in a situation of exactly what it means to cure a ballot and what it means to find a recovered ballot and exactly what signature matching means. Like, I do think that there are problems with mass mail-in balloting, but I think out and out banning it or taking it away is way too punitive. And it's something that very much hurts people that have just gotten used to voting in this certain manner. If they pared it down to just one thing and stapled money to it, I think, again, it's too late now. You would have to do it you'd have to do it for the presidential election, so you'd have 2 years to implement it. But I think that it'd be popular. I think you'd be more looking at the realm of whether or not Democrats who were looking at elections that they would have in the next few years would be thinking about supporting it, as opposed to what it is now, where it is accordioned in and out with this grab bag of random right-wing items. It essentially now the Save America Act is this, goodie bag of base firer upper stuff, where, like, if you care about things on Fox News, this is what it addresses. And that's dumb. I don't think that you should be doing something that you allegedly say is really important to you, like election security and like election integrity. You shouldn't be putting it together with a bunch of other random shit. And if you really wanted to get it done, you need to put a tight circle around it. Like, I don't think that it is the most onerous thing in the world to prove citizenship. I do think you need time, and I do think that you need money, and I do think that you need a process. And so you would either need a kind of pop-up federal agency that would work with states, or you'd have to create some kind of system to onboard people. You'd have to create, guidelines on whether or not there would be a grace period, and, how votes would be handled in the interim. But again, I agree with you. It's not a serious bill to solve this. And I do think that it could be solved, and I do think that it would be popular, and it's simply not that.
Yeah, and I'd like to add one thing before I get accused of predicting a stolen election. And thank you, Justin. You did fill in that mail-in ballot hole. There's also like anti-trans stuff in there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the Fox and Friends bill of like, here's the ABC block of Fox and Friends. Here are things that we're talking about with all of it.
And here, the difference between that ridiculous messaging bill and this one is that the president is requesting people in the House grind the House to a halt until he gets it. So this is really like a Trump thing that's pushing it. It's not really the people in Congress. And so before I get accused of like predicting that this election is going to get stolen, I just want to be crystal clear that the question I was answering from Andrew is, why do I think that chaos is the goal? I don't actually think they're going to succeed in this. And it's actually because of the Republicans that I believe that. The House is nuts. But there are Republicans in the Senate who have been crystal clear that they are not going to let this move forward. So I have actually no fear of this happening in the November election. If you ask me what the goal is, and I kind of like try and put myself in Trump's shoes, like, why do I want this? That's what I think. Do I think what, that hysterical thing that I just said is actually going to happen? I really don't. So if I freaked anyone out, that was not my intention. I actually think we still have some statesmen in the Senate, and they're not going to let this happen.
I also think the one thing that I blanch at whenever we talk about chaos being the goal from the Trump administration is like, that's like saying that me breathing carbon dioxide is the goal. Like, it's just a thing that happens with them. Like, there's just like, I don't think they wake up and they're like, how are we going to imagine that White House and that leadership, especially with the frontline people that we're talking about on the House, that they're getting together and saying like, how are we going to sow chaos today? Would imagine that they can be in a resting state where they can imagine chaos. Yeah. They are just the gremlins on the wing. Like, they just act on instinct. I think a lot of politicians do, to be totally honest with you, but this politician specifically.
No, for sure. Trump wakes up and is like, I'm going to give Kermit the Frog the death penalty. That's what I'm going to do today. Like, just had a dream about it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then you have Anna Paulina Luna over in the House. She's the one who's trying to grind everything to the halt. She wants to be the face of it. She wants to be the new MTG that Trump loves. Yeah. Like, they're silly people. And the House freaks people out, but the Senate is where the grown-ups are, and they're not letting this move.
Well, I have good news for everybody. They're all going to take a 6-week break. They've done such a good job. They're going to reward themselves by taking 6 weeks off.
And then they come back for 2 weeks. And they take 6 more weeks off.
And then another 6 weeks off. So, good times. Patreon.com/wherenotwrong is where you need to go if you want to support the program. Sometimes I just like to wind up Andrew Heaton. I just find a story that I know is just gonna turn that crank like a little monkey with cymbals. And boy, do we got a real humdinger here in the Patreon. Zohran Mamdani, when he's not saying that he can't arrest Bibi Netanyahu, he is becoming the face of deregulation in New York City. One of the strangest things about that man as a politician is that he loves two things: gigantic social programs that are largely unfunded, and just kind of copying John Stossel videos about permitting reform. So I want to talk to Andrew Heaton about all that. And that's going to be our Patreon episode. We go to New York City and talk Mamdani. Patreon.com/wherenotwrong. Bonus episode each and every week. Mamdani was at the World Cup final. In fact, it ended the largest World Cup ever this Sunday. 104 matches across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. FIFA projected roughly 6.7 million total attendees, a tournament record, and said stadiums were all essentially full, while U.S. broadcasts repeatedly set soccer audience records. The expanded 48-team field produced breakout teams and stars, but as what always happens, the American question is now upon us. Can this 6-week global spectacle create durable domestic fandom? We could look to Columbus, Ohio. The Columbus Crew, the MLS team, says that 15,000 people attended its World Cup watch party, including 8,000 who had never interacted with the club before, and only 10% of attendees were season ticket holders. So our domestic league will now try to convert fans, but I ask you, Andrew Heaton, international man that you are, a cross-continental.
Mm-hmm.
Did soccer finally land in the United States, or did America just throw the biggest 6-week party and now we're going to move on to something else?
I think that soccer in the United States is two different sports. There's the international one, where you get to go to the World Cup and root for America to fight Belgium or whatever, which I think is now here to stay. I think that we will be very excited 4 years from now when we do another World Cup. Is that how often they are?
Yep.
Yes, good job.
Okay. So it's like they time it with our presidential elections so that, okay, good. I like this.
The next year. So, the year after a presidential election, they do a World Cup. Yeah.
So no, I think that that'll be a thing. Like I think Americans like rooting for America, and this is a fun way to. It was good. Everybody had a good time, right? I think that is a very different sport than MLS that you described. I think that the local domestic variant of professional soccer is it is a thing. It's mainstream, but I would place it just above hockey. So whatever you think of hockey in the United States in terms of the potency of that as a sport, soccer is a little bit more than that, but it's way still behind football, baseball, or football, basketball, baseball. It's number 4. So it's there, but I don't think it's going to be mainstream, which I'm kind of flummoxed by the way, because like I played soccer when I was a little kid. I know it's hard to imagine me doing a sport, but I did that when I was a little kid. I had the Capri Suns and everything. We've been doing this since the 90s, maybe the 80s. And yet, like, despite entire generations of kids growing up playing soccer, I feel like everybody grows up and then just gets into American football and basketball. And I don't know why. But no, I think we're going to root for the international stuff when it comes to town. Otherwise, I think that this is just hockey, only it's outside.
Jen?
I'm with Andrew on this one. I look at my own behavior. I was so into this World Cup even after the U.S. won out, but like I don't know where there are teams in the United States. I have no intention of looking it up. I have no intention of going to a game. I know that Austin has a team and my friends want me to go and I'm kind of meh about it. I didn't fall in love with watching the game. Mainly because I'm an American and I have the attention span of a fruit fly. And so to really watch this game, you have to sit there and watch it. Like there aren't a lot of breaks. There's not a lot that goes on. If you miss the one goal that happens, you've kind of missed the whole thing. I like that I get a break every 30 seconds in American football. I like that I can make a snack. I like that I can miss 10 plays and like, it's fine. We like to watch sports that have a lot of pomp in them. We like to have the halftime shows. Like over here, overseas, the fact that we had a halftime show for the finals, people thought it was ridiculous. It was not appreciated. Yeah. People were not into it. They thought it was stupid. Like, we like that shit. I like that shit, except for Justin Bieber. I don't know why he was in that, and he did a terrible job.
Canada.
Oh my God, he just like tanked the whole vibe. But the point that I'm making is that if anybody else feels like me and got into the World Cup and yet still doesn't really know what the situation is with our domestic teams and has no desire to check it out, I mean, I'm a pretty big sporto. If you can't convince me that I love the game, like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen to a lot of people.
I can't believe it. Every once in a while, man, we like to surprise you. Soccer's here. And I think it's going to only continue to get bigger. And here's why. In 1994, the last time that the World Cup was in the United States, we had no professional league. The United States team was a bunch of people that played soccer in college, and you had a few Americans that had filtered their way into some of the bigger leagues in, overseas. But you could count on your hand the amount that had done it in like the previous 10 years. Now, not only do we have MLS, not only is MLS proven to be a place where just past their prime or maybe way past their prime, massive stars like Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Thierry Henry and David Beckham, and now Messi, who is in the final, he plays in the Miami League or in the Miami team in the MLS. They come to America. I think we just did a gigantic sell job for a whole generation of soccer stars that by and large loved America. Erling Haaland, the Norwegian gigantic Viking striker who was awesome in this tournament, was so in love with America, he left with a stuffed taxidermy raccoon, and on his Snapchat is just shooting golf balls off of a yacht, listening to Ella Langley country music because he is just super America built. So I think there's going to be a generation of top European stars that are going to want to come to America for various different reasons. Either they want to do it, they're going to be able to get a lot of money. If there's one thing that America likes to do, is just randomly spend money on things and try to make it big. Largely, it's this. If you look at where we went between World Cups, from 94 to 2026, so that's 12 years, soccer became way bigger in America than it was before. Interest in every metric that you can do. Tickets sold to the MLS, audience for European leagues on television, audience for American international games, either for Copa America or the Gold Cup or World Cup. They all continue to go up and up and up. And now the American national team kind of has a little bit of an identity, because in this World Cup, we saw something that we had never seen before. The team actually looked like good. They looked like competent, not in a muck it up.
Until they looked like dog shit, but yeah.
But that's the story. The story isn't, do we have the talent for the first time? We looked at how we played against other good teams, including Paraguay, that eliminated Germany and gave France a heart attack. We beat the fucking brakes off Paraguay. So the question isn't, do we have the talent? The question is, are we chokers? And if there's one thing that American sports fan can understand, is chokers. We love to label people chokers. We love it when the choker finally gets over it. This is Peyton Manning and John Elway and all of the some of our best stories, even early Michael Jordan's career.
Casper
there
Halston.
was you can't win the big one. Who was that?
Casper Halston?
Sure. Let's say, what is that?
I'm just making up names.
God damn it. So MLS is on the rise. I think they have certain markets where they're gigantic. Atlanta is a huge market for the MLS. It has attracted its own certain kind of demographic. It's huge in our age cohort, the millennial cohort. I don't know. I would not be shocked if we just continue to see it grow and grow. It is currently less popular than hockey, just to correct Heaton, at least in terms of the metrics that
I was
that
overly
matter.
Optimistic about soccer?
You were overly optimistic.
Okay.
But in a world where like everything is kind of divided and there's no one monoculture, everything's sort of a niche. Like, but when the ratings come out for most watched television shows at the end of the year, usually it's the 5 biggest football game. It's like, no, it's like the 20 biggest football games that
like NFL football
or college, right? So it's like NFL games, Super Bowl, semis, and then you might get a few like Final Four basketball games or something like that if there's something extraordinarily interesting. And other than that, there's like 2 or 3 political events, like a debate or election coverage or something like that. Those are usually the top things. This year, 2, maybe 3 of those World Cup games are going to be on there. And I do think that matters. Now, it helps that it was in friendly time zones. You know, it usually kind of kills World Cup ratings. But yeah, I'm bullish on soccer. Look at me. I'm like, the 2 Europeans are down on soccer, and me, the American, I'm bullish on soccer.
The time zones is so key to this, Justin, because as into it as I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. for some of the games. Like, it just wasn't. In fact, there was a USA game that I didn't stay up for. It was the one where we got our asses handed to us. We watched it first thing in the morning and had our phones off so no one could ruin it for us, but we didn't stay up. So I do think that affects it. Do I think Americans are going to get up at 3 a.m. to watch Spain versus Argentina? The fuck I do not. I think what's going to happen is that all of us, myself very much included, are going to go back to being posers in 2030 and be big fans of soccer when our team is back together again. And we're going to love it in 2030, maybe, depending on what time the games are. And then we'll do it again in 4 years, and we'll do it again in 4 years. Like, do I hope that the MLS players get more attention? Sure. I don't know. I don't think people fell in love with the game. I think they fell in love with the way the world fell in love with us.
Yeah.
I think that's
I think what's going to happen
there's a little bit of like, hey, looks like we aren't so bad after all, huh?
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is I will probably marry Darlene Graham, and then I will inherit the Senate seat because that's how that works. She will be my property. Therefore, I will own the Senate seat, and I'll probably become a professional football player, as in soccer. Between now and 2026, I think I'll be a senator soccer player.
When you marry Darlene, are you going to keep her last name? Or are you going to hyphenate? Because I think
I'm
last
going to hyphenate
name,
it, but not with
she
her
has
last
a
name.
hyphenated last name.
Heaton Dunkirk will be my new name to signify that I've married someone.
Yeah, but the seat goes with the name. Debbie Dingle, John Dingle, they're Grijalva.
that's right.
The daughter kept Grijalva. So you might have to be Andy Graham.
Heaton Fitzgraham. That'll be what I go with.
Where the fuck
There we
does the
go.
Fitz come from?
Means bastard
Because it
son.
fits in.
Oh. Okay.
We're not wrongpod@gmail.com, where you need to go if you want to write into the program. We talked about Lindsey Graham's death last week. Life comes at you fast. I'm not here to make friends, writes. Genuine question for anybody, but especially Jen. Who would you point to in Congress or somebody that isn't motivated by personal status or power?
I mean, the name that pops into my head immediately is Jim McGovern. I mean, that guy is such a lover of Congress itself. He's such a wonk, and most people have no idea who he is. I was represented by Mark Desaulniers for a while, went to some of his town halls, and he's just kind of there. He's not really trying to climb any ladders. I've always liked Marcy Kaptur. Jan Schakowsky has been there for like 30 years. She's not trying to jump into the Senate or become president. She's just doing her job for Illinois. On the Republican side, Brian Fitzpatrick has taken some real tough votes where the path of least resistance for him is to say yes to everything the Republicans want. He has not done that. Same with Lisa Murkowski. And then, really, there's just literally hundreds of members of Congress whose names I don't know that I can't list for you because I don't know who they are.
Callum Ashford, Lucian Mero, Rafael Monteiro, they're all doing great jobs.
He's just saying words.
This is more of his fake
Callum
names.
Ashford, yeah. So that one, yeah.
The point I'm trying to make with that, though, is there are members of Congress who are not tap dancing on the steps of the Capitol for the reporters. They're getting their jobs done. They're working on constituent services. I am not that cynical about Congress that everyone there is a monster. I think there are people that run for office to do good things for their communities and are doing it. And in large part, those people are not the ones you know. They're not all Lauren Boebert trying to get attention. They're not all like that. Just go to congress.gov and look up the members of Congress and look at how many names you've never seen before. That actually gives me hope.
Power corrupts, writes. It's ego. It's always ego. When thousands of millions of people vote for you, you start to identify with the idea of being in office. You're chosen. They tell themselves that they won't let it change them, but they were chosen. And very few people make it out of politics the same person they were when they went in. This is why power corrupts, why the good ones seem to turn bad in the end. It's just ego.
I think it's interesting to think about why certain professions attract particular people. You do see different personalities that go into academia versus entrepreneurialism, right? And it's worth asking what's the thing that's attracting people to a particular field? Politics is one of those because there are good people that are there because they want to serve the public. There are also egotists, ambitious people, sociopaths, and losers. They're all kind of in the mix.
I think with politics, because getting into office requires a popularity contest, I think it does attract people to whom a popularity contest sounds fun. I am not that person, so I think I went entrepreneur because I like being by myself and, not having anyone tell me what to do, and my independence is incredibly annoying, and I don't think I'm all that popular. So that's why I don't want to run for office. So I just think that the job application really does limit who wants to do it.
There plus the incentive structures there too, right? Listeners, you all missed a step last week. I'm disappointed in you because I keep using as my catchphrase, but if we give them more money and power. And last week I literally was maybe we should pay them more. So you guys should have called me out on that. How did you miss that? I'm disappointed in you listeners. You didn't call me out on that. To the listener that's writing in, I do think there's something about the ego thing there. And I don't even necessarily mean like egomaniacal. Here's what I mean. One of my friends that lives in Texas fell so hard in love with Beto O'Rourke when he was running against Ted Cruz that she named her son Beto.
Ooh.
Now, I want you to imagine you're Beto O'Rourke, and a woman comes up to you at a campaign event and holds her baby out and says, I named my son after you because I believe you are the future of our country. That has got to be a goddamn addictive feeling. And that's something that I think people that are in office receive regularly. And I do think that's part of why they never leave, because it's very difficult to step down from that. When I talk to members of Congress that have left, like, one of the things they deal with is they're not funny anymore. Everybody fucking laughs at them when they're in office, and then they leave and they're not funny anymore. They get depressed, so they just stay forever.
Yeah.
They can't not.
It's funny that you say that would be addictive. I think this is proving my point, because when you said that a child was named after, like, if someone came up to me and said, I named this baby after you, that would be terrifying. I'd be like, that is creepy and weird. Like when Joe Rogan, so a fan came up to him, someone had tattooed Joe Rogan's face on their own body and like showed him that. And like, he has the ego to where he thought that was cool. I would have gotten a restraining order. So I just think that there's certain personalities for that. Which
You've never had a fan tattoo something from your show on them?
It's kind of weird. Kind of weird that that happened to you. Yeah.
The show would be fine, but me, like, name your baby after me, or like,
I've had somebody tattoo a cartoon of my face on their body.
No,
really?
You're lying.
Mm-hmm.
For
there's
real.
a bunch of Diamond Club. There's a bunch of Diamond Club tattoos. Oh yeah.
Really?
Your face.
It's a cartoon, a caricatured cartoon version of me and Brian. But yeah.
Did they also tattoo Brian or just you?
Me and Brian.
Oh. Because that'd be something you could run with Brian forever. Fuck
yeah. That's awesome. I mean, number one, on this person, it wasn't like, you know, their only tattoo. Let me just say, they were looking for things that they could put on their body. And so I was happy that I was part of the melange, right?
The mural.
It's like, yeah, I was just a part of it. But no, I was honored that my art would be able to do it. I do think that when you get into the world of like politics where you're the savior, that gets a little Jesus-y. And, you know, that crosses, like, at least when that person tattooed a thing on their body or my face on their body, I could say, oh, do you like these jokes? And I felt good about the jokes that I made. And they could be like, oh my God, I laughed so hard at Captain Morgan. And I could be like, I'm Captain Morgan. And then they'd laugh and be like, okay, that's great. Like, that was an exchange. Like, I thought of a thing, they laughed at a thing, they laughed so hard, they have such good memories of it, they commemorated it. When it gets into a political world, then it's like, you're the only one. You need to save us. And it's like,
you're election
that's
Jesus.
A lot of pressure.
Only you can rise to the occasion. By the way, ladies, you should absolutely name your kid after me. Here's why. Currently, no heir. If I die, Wallace gets my retirement account. That's the plan. My dog gets an escrow account and some kind of caretaker. You name your kid Heaton? Probably I just named your kid in the will. I don't know. Maybe. 50-50 chance. Smart move.
Waiting writes, Lindsey Graham tried for a decade to get an immigration reform deal completed. Is it not reasonable for him to stop trying after seeing that it was never going to happen?
No, not if he actually thought that was a worthwhile effort and if he actually wanted to help people. Like, he went so 180 that no, I don't respect it. It's just, it was clearly trying to curry favor with Trump instead of something that I think he truly believed. That's my problem with a lot of the Republicans right now. They're doing things in legislation simply to curry favor with Donald Trump. Like, if you look at the tariffs and, you know, the war, there's a lot of things that we know that they don't actually approve of, but they're afraid to say what they actually think. And it's pathetic and not their job.
93% popular with their constituents. 93% popular.
I don't believe that. Okay, fine, Justin. I don't fucking believe that. I don't know who is being polled when you see that 93. Like, where are you getting this number from? It's
hold on. I do believe that,
his,
but keep in mind
his numbers within the Republican Party are shocking. Let me see if.
But how many people are leaving the Republican Party? Like, I don't know, man. these polls of people where they take a sample. Like, I don't know.
I'm going to correct you both. So first of all, it's not 93% with their constituents. It's 93% with their party. Their constituents is greater than their party because there are people in their district that aren't necessarily Republican.
Yeah.
It's very high with the Republicans. That doesn't surprise me because there's so many independents now. Like half the country's registered independent. The people that have remained behind in the political parties are far more partisan than they used to be. The moderates have effectively left. So I'm not surprised that any president would actually do really, really well with their political party right now because the people that were on the edge took off.
Yeah. If you're winning 93% of 20% of the country, that's not a lot of people.
I mean, it's a lot relative to every other president with their party.
Fine. He has taken over the party and made them into a bunch of people that don't believe in anything other than him. So sure, the people that remain love their God. Okay.
I mean, but like, so I only say that not to say that, oh, Donald Trump is a popular or good man. Again, I really wish I just need a horn that can
Maybe
just skip us past
paddle.
this fucking tedious,
listeners, make us paddles that say, I do not approve of Donald Trump. Yeah, listeners,
Justin, when you say this, the reason
paddles.
I get annoyed is that you're kind of defending Lindsey Graham for flip-flopping on something he believed in for 25 years.
No.
So when you say this, it's like, well, he's popular. Donald Trump is popular with the party, and therefore what Lindsey does is it just makes sense politically.
Yes, that's what they do. That's what they all do. It's what they do constantly.
Cool.
It's what they do every single fucking time is that they protect their own ass so they don't get voted out in the primary. This is the X's and O's. This is the blocking and tackling. This is like if somebody was playing football and you didn't like them, it'd be like, well, why are they passing the ball? They should just lay down on the ground. That's what they really want to do. It's like, no, that's the game they're playing is to stay in office.
No, that is not the game they're playing. They're elected to a certain term where they're supposed to serve the people. And the idea that this is just a game and what they're doing by flip-flopping on their policies in ways that hurt people, that's just the natural order of things, I don't fucking accept
It's not the natural order of things. You are assuming that it is something more personal or emotional than it is. It is the mechanics of how they stay in office. That is what they... Now, go ahead.
I admire the aspirational position, and I agree with the ideals there. I think you are going to be severely disappointed in our elected officials for the rest of your life if it's predicated on that they should all be doing that.
Or maybe some of them will do their jobs because some of them are doing their jobs properly and not just capitulating. Like some people are willing to serve their term, do what they think is right, and let the voters decide instead of switching what they believe and switching policies based on, what Donald Trump. It's not okay. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend
people switch policies all the time, whether or not it's because the issues are popular. Look how many people are talking about Israel right now. They never talked about Israel in their entire career. Now they're talking about Israel. Yeah. Why? Because criticism to Israel is more popular in specifically the Democratic Party.
Or because Israel is murdering people and stealing land from their neighbors. Like maybe their behavior has something to do with it.
I'm not defending Lindsey Graham, by the way.
That shit has been happening.
Not like this.
Okay.
Not like this.
Okay.
Jen,
Justin, we're always going to have, hold on, Andrew. Justin, we're always going to have this fight because I know that you pay attention to politics and you think it's a game. It's the way that it is. I'm paying attention to what's happening in legislation and how people are hurting. And when it comes to Lindsey Graham, is it not reasonable for him to just stop trying? No, he's a senator. He's supposed to try and make policies that work for people. And instead he flipped. And now there's people sitting in cages. There are people that are being deported that don't deserve to be deported. Like his flip, like he cared about the Dreamers. Now he's trying to make it so that they can hold children in cages longer. No, not reasonable. So we're focused on two completely different things.
I'm not saying it's reasonable. I'm not offering excuses. That's where it always gets
But that's
twisted.
what it sounds like.
That's fine. That's what you hear. That's not what I'm saying. No amount of people saying what I'm saying sounds like a thing doesn't make it the thing that I'm saying. We can willfully not hear what I'm saying, but that I am explaining the process, the mechanics by which they are making their decision. You can say it's right. You can say it's wrong. That's not my business. That's everybody else's business.
The question is it reasonable? I don't think it is. I think it is wrong.
Okay. Did you hear me say opposite?
Kinda, yeah, I did.
Okay, then that's your fault.
Okay.
You guys know X and Y graphs? You guys are talking about two different verticals on this. One of you is talking about the moral axis. The other one's talking about the pragmatic axis.
Yeah, I agree.
Graham Cracker writes, quote from nonpartisan Jen Briney, I don't care who votes for it as long as I get what I want.
Well, yeah. If I was partisan, I would say, oh, I like the policy, but I don't support it because the other party does. So, yeah, thanks for the quote.
Speak ill of the public record writes, the maxim speak ill not of the dead does not apply to public deeds of a deceased person. It is a narrower social convention about rumor and innuendo regarding character flaws and private behavior. For instance, if I were writing Lindsey Graham's obituary, the first line would be something to the effect of, quote, Lindsey Graham, long-serving senator from South Carolina, and the apotheosis of the transformation of the august deliberative body into a collection of mediocrities, end quote. I guess we got a writer here. That would be fair. It would be crass to start his obituary with, quote, Lindsey Graham, long-serving senator from South Carolina, staunch ally of Israel ever since discovering the transformative touch of tug jobs by twinks in Tel Aviv, end quote. It might not be wrong, but it would be crass, and I would also say that you're a hack for using alliteration. I added that editorially at the end.
I think this is directed to me. I agree with you. I think that we should be able to separate how we feel about the person professionally from their character when they're dead, and being able to say, like, I would not have voted for Lindsey Graham. I think he should have been thrown out of the Senate for most of the reasons that Jen established earlier. I'm on team loser, never Trumper, and so I would have thrown him out. But I don't know. I just feel icky talking about dead people, particularly my future wife's dead brother. I mean, Jesus, like, this is going to cause problems in the family when I marry and own Darlene and inherit that Senate seat.
When you own Darlene.
Yeah. When she becomes my personal private property, as is the law in South Carolina.
My property. We also talked about Meta smart glasses, flock cameras. Now, for everyone, writes, cops use flock cameras to stalk former wives and girlfriends. Now these glasses will make it easy for everyone.
I just think that everybody should be able to stalk their wives and girlfriends with the same technology that cops currently do.
I mean, this
Why
is where
it
we
that,
get
the
into
cops
this.
have...
Here comes the wearer of glasses, annoyed.
No, it's the catastrophic, like, oh, okay, like, where's the publicly accessible database for everybody's, cameras in the way, I mean, we got a lot of email about the flock cameras. For whatever reason, the Meta glasses are connected to the idea of this current conversation about flock cameras, which for folks who are not aware, they are cameras that are used to track, theoretically, this is what the police departments in the city say when they install them, they are used to track criminals that are beyond places that would already have public cameras, like intersections and stuff like that. And that if you put them around when you need to catch somebody, you can catch somebody a lot easier and faster. They are becoming more popular because they are cheap to install from certain vendors who largely want a lot of the AI trading data to understand these movements better because there's other applications they can have for it. They are controversial. The camera changed childhood, writes, Justin said that everyone was worried about having cameras in their pockets at all times, but nothing happened. I completely disagree. Kids growing up are now afraid to do anything because someone might post it somewhere, so everyone has a boring-ass childhood where everyone's afraid of doing anything novel. There are so many things I did growing up that I wouldn't have dared if I thought somebody was recording me to potentially share with the world.
Or my parents.
I mean, I don't know how old this emailer thinks I am, but I was not born before. I was not raised before cameras, and I will say that the times that I used cameras the most was doing the dumbest shit that I have ever done. So it's not like I don't have footage of myself doing dumb stuff that would have been bad if it had surfaced in inopportune moments. Now, I'm not saying that scaling that up to near ubiquity doesn't have an effect. So I probably should have applied that to my commentary. Fair play.
I will admit our age, because when I was in college, I had a flip phone and I had an actual camera. And yes, it was digital, so I could upload stuff, But for the most part, like you would see if I was pulling out my big boxy camera, which I usually didn't carry around because it would take up my whole purse. Like I was in a lot of spaces where there were no cameras. And we certainly didn't have social media like we did today. Like it might end up on MySpace, but like probably not. I did not worry the way I think these kids have to worry today.
I was hanging out with all these
first
aspiring
generation of like scrub your Facebook before you apply for a job.
Yeah. I was about to say, I was hanging out with all these aspiring politicians when I was in college who we'd be at a party drinking and they would all put I probably did it too, would all put like their arms just out of frame so you couldn't see that they were holding drinks so that couldn't be used against them in the future. There was one guy, the RA for my dorm when I was in college, I had a disposable camera that I'd used the last year of high school when I went to NASA. I got to go on a trip to NASA and I took pictures with a disposable camera. And for some reason, I took a picture of him doing something funny. And he went, hey, I'm going to develop those photos, but I need to destroy that funny photo of me for professional purposes because it could hurt me in the future. They just threw it all away, the fucker. Oh. But maybe if we give him more money and power, maybe then these exact people that I'm discussing will do a bang-up job.
Stuffing makes me feel good, says, if we aren't allowed to stuff a few genies back in the bottle, we probably should all switch to the precautionary principle when it comes to new technology. I'd rather we didn't do that, so we should probably reserve the right to stuff. Get stuffing.
I think that this is actually a very salient position. We're talking about ought versus likelihood. I think the likelihood is that it's probably going to come, but yeah, I agree with you here. I'd rather be able to move forward and change mistakes than have the precautionary principle in place. I like this email. This is the smartest objection we've had, unless anybody has some sort of weird cockeyed analogy involving the Stasi.
No, it's dumb. Like, this is a dumb email. It's like people say you can't stuff the genie back in the bottle, not because we don't want to. It's because we can't. It's like we should be able to piss in the wind. I agree. We should. It doesn't mean that we can. It means that like we're frustrated that we can't. Now, it doesn't like sometimes the culture just says, hey, we don't like these. These are not like Google Glass. Not cool. It's too expensive. People didn't like the fact that there was a camera there. It very much ubiquitously looked like a camera. People were against it. It failed as a product. These mostly look like glasses, and they have a gigantic promotional push by Kylie Jenner, which means that women, largely women, at least for that push, that love photographs and love pictures and videos, are going to wear them and they're going to use them. And so they're just going to be a thing that we deal with.
Hey, Abby's down there shaking. I'm a little worried. I think she needs to go out. Do you mind if I duck out for the rest of the episode?
Go.
Okay, thank you.
Private Sector Panopticon writes, whenever I see something that the East German Stasi would get a wet dream over, my reflexive response is to oppose it. But I guess Heaton doesn't mind living in a panopticon as long as it's not state-run. Only if there's a degree away of the state and includes a profit motive along with compulsion to control the public.
Gosh, you really nailed me. I mean, when I think of my ideal situations, the Stasi really comes to the forefront of my mind. And the analogy is particularly good because, most of Stasi's funding came from selling sunglasses. Like they had to rely on selling sunglasses to get all of their data, just like Meta. They're basically the same. I agree. Well done.
Heaton and I went to a Stasi museum, the Stasi Museum.
We did. We went to a Stasi museum.
Or in East Berlin.
And Justin will back me up in this. I was not a fan of those guys.
Yeah, I was. I took the opposite.
Yeah. Justin was like, I don't know. It seems like
I just walked from room to room. Eggs. It was just both my hands behind my back, proud, and just said, the good old days.
The sword and shield
used to
of
be
the
a
socialists.
Country. Smart glasses without video, writes. Apparently Lucid has smart glasses without video and also connects to whatever LLM you want instead of just Meta. Maybe it's what you're looking for. I will look into that. Yeah. All right. There we go. Let's wrap it up here. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, we have our episode out. Somehow, Trump 1.0 has returned. Trump 2.0 defined by a little bit more ruthless efficiency. If you were missing the infighting and the nonsense of Trump 1.0, have I got news for you. It is back. And then we have our mutual friend Josh Jennings on the program on Friday to talk about how dumb I thought the right-wing pre-backlash to Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie was. One of the greatest own goals. If you want to hear me rip right-wing chuds for a solid 50 minutes, then this Friday's PX3 is for you. Mr. Heaton.
Check that out. Hold on. I, Jen Briney, am working hard on my next episode. It'll be out in a couple of weeks. The last one that I did was Land Grabs and Cages, about expansion of ICE immigrant facilities. You can hear that on my show, The Congressional Dish. Now, I, Andrew Heaton, on the Political Orphanage, am talking to Saul Isaac this week of The Tangle. Do you know The Tangle, Justin?
He's been on the show, yeah.
Have you? Okay, yeah. I liked him. I liked him a lot. And we talked about why did media lose trust and what could it get to bring it back? I looked a little bit at the data. Turns out there has been significantly declining trust in media the last few years, and I will talk to him about that. And then on the bonus episode on the Political Orphanage, I've been working on an essay for a while now, and I think that I've come up with some really novel ideas. As a creative person who's been working in creative fields for 20 years, I have always kind of wondered, why do creative people tend to not like capitalism very much? Or are more skeptical of it than, say, like your average insurance claim adjuster? What is this coming from? So I put a lot of thought into this, and I've come up with some theories on that. Both of those are on the Political Orphanage.
Phenomenal. Well, for Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young saying we're not wrong. The person who bet 5.5 Senate vacancies in South Carolina is...
Dog and Pony Show audio.